Good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be able to say to you, welcome to Cabal Vision HD, the new official Blood Bowl TV.
Hello there, I'm the Sage and welcome to a quick guide to the Halfling team. Halflings are one of the worst teams in the game. They're one of the three stunty teams, ogres, halflings and goblins, and some would say halflings might be the worst. I don't quite agree. They are frustrating, but they can be pretty fun at times, and I'll show you how. Halflings come with only two positional types, the treeman and the halfling. The treeman is the same as on the wood elf team, so it has movement 2, strength 6, agility 1 and armor 10. It has mighty blow, stand firm, strong arm, thick skull, throw teammate, and take root. It only gets access to strength skills. However, unlike the one on the wood elf team, it does not have loner. That is a very, very big deal. Also, because you have halflings on your team, you actually get to use strong arm and throw teammate, which the wood elf one does not. These guys are going to be your backbone of the team, your primary blitzing kinds of guys. Now, of course, movement 2 means that in order to be able to stand up, they'll need to roll a 4+, so that really sucks. Other than that, they don't really have big weaknesses. Take root is annoying, but because you don't have loner, you're going to be bothered by it much less. You'll actually find yourself blitzing with these guys a lot. The other cool thing about the halfling treeman is that you get not one, but 2 of them. So that's a lot of strength on the pitch. The other positional that you have on the team are the halflings. These are like the goblins you know from the orc team, but worse, because they have movement 5, strength 2, agility 3, and armor 6. Yes, you heard that right, armor 6. Dodge, right stuff, and stunty, and only access to agility skills. Now, dodge is nice, of course, and right stuff means that you can throw them, and stunty means they can dodge well, but they break even more easily than the armor 6 suggests. A big problem with the halflings is that because they only have access to agility skills, there's no real good way to develop them unless they roll something well. So you're going to probably want to fire these guys if they reach, say, 16 or 31 star player points without rolling something good, and then you can hire new ones and see if they can do better. Before getting into the various ways you can start off your halfling team, we're going to want to have a look at their inducement options, because these are going to be crucial for how you play. So the halflings have a special inducement rule, which is the Halfling Master Chef. Now you can get that on any team, but normally it costs 300k to induce, making it one of the worst inducement options there is. For halflings, it only costs 100k, and that is a huge difference. You'll want that every game. The second option that's really crucial is Deeproot Strongbranch. He's a treeman with plus strength, so strength 7, and block, and no take root. Now that is a really, really good player, and 300k is very much worth getting. So that means that if you are able to, you'll want to either play 100k up or 400k up, so that you can get the chef or the chef and Deeproot. Other stars you can get are Morg, horribly overpriced of course, and Zara the Slayer is kind of nice. 6, 4, 3, 8 is a decent stat line, strength 4 is good of course. Blodge and Jump Up are nice. Dauntless, yeah, on a strength 4, not that great. She has stab and stakes mean that her stab works more effectively when playing against undead or necromantic or vampires or Khemri. Puggy Bacon Breath is kind of cool too. He's a halfling but with plus strength and block, and he also gets Nerves of Steel. Now, strength 3 Blodge is a really, really big asset on a team that normally doesn't get access to general skills. 140k is still fairly affordable as well, so this might be worth getting. Willow Rosebark is a player that I'm not a huge fan of. She's got 5, 4, 3, 8 as a stat line, but no block, so Dauntless, not that good on strength 4. Sidestep, yeah, okay. Thick Skull, not that inspiring. 150k is fairly affordable though, so if you have some money left over, it might be worth picking up. Bertha Big Fist is a really, really cool player. She's an ogre with a standard 6, 5, 2, 9 stat line, but she has both break tackle and dodge. Normally I don't really care for break tackle when you have loner on a player, but with dodge it actually becomes really good, because loner doesn't bother you because you can use your skill reroll to reroll the dodge. That makes Bertha quite a cool player to have around. Bearing in mind the great inducement options you have, I think it's worthwhile to start off at a very, very low team value. Now you'll definitely want both treemen, and you have to fill up the team to 11 with halflings, but after that we still have 490k left in the bank. And what I would advise is to just get one reroll and no apothecary. This leaves you with 430k left. Now your team value is still high. That's because we have excess money and the bank rule kicks in. We can work around that by getting an upgrade to our stadium and also buying a stadium enhancement. The stadium enhancement that I would advise you to get is the one that will give you cheaper star players. Because, Deeproot is really good and you want to be able to afford him. And also, for instance, Puggy goes from 140k to 90k, which is quite affordable. So this should already get you started. You could choose to buy something else and upgrade your stadium again. You can't actually get rid of money because we're still in the team creation phase, but that's okay because you can just choose to spend that money in your inducement phase instead. Because otherwise you'd have to spend 200k, and that would leave you with only 30, which might be very painful if you start losing players early on. If starting out with only 11 players, when most of your players have armor value 6 scares you, you can opt to go for a slightly bigger starting build. You could afford 3 rerolls and 15 players and even an apothecary if you want. I would not go for the 16th player because you want to make sure that you have at least one spot for a star player on your team. I might even go for 14 so that you have 2 spots for star players. Now with this build you'd have 3 rerolls, an apo, a full squad minus 1 spot, and you would still be only 860k team value, which leaves you enough for the Halfling Master Chef if you're playing against the team value 1000 team. So that's pretty helpful. But I would recommend leaving it at 14 players, team value 830, and you could even leave out the apothecary if you wish. Now, developing your treeman is kinda straightforward because you only have access to strength skills. And one of the most important skills that you'll want to probably start out with is break tackle, because these guys are easy to tie up and they are your main strength, your main blitzers. And because you don't have loner, you can afford to try and dodge with them a bit more. At some point you'll want to fire them if they don't roll something good, because only strength access sucks. So let's assume you'll get block in there somewhere along the way. Grab is really nice, especially with take root, and guard is kind of needed at some point as well, also to prevent the other trees from getting knocked down. If you roll a second doubles, I would recommend getting dodge, and another thing that might be worth taking is actually multi-block, especially after you've got block, because with strength 6 you can quite often afford to make 2 good 2-die blocks instead of a single 3-die block, which may be worth it, because that's double the mighty blow. Some coaches really like to pick jump up if they have doubles on their tree. A good reason for this is that it negates your weakness of movement too, because if you go down on the ground, jump up will let you bypass the 4+ roll that you would otherwise need. You won't be using it for jump up blocks, but once you have it, you can also afford to take piling on, which you otherwise never would. Break tackle is still a must, and guard is still very useful, and if you roll second doubles, I would put block on it. So most of the skills will be the same options, but jump up might be worthwhile to pick on the doubles. Should you be lucky enough to roll a third double on a treeman, the 2 options I would consider are tackle, because you'll find it often lacking on a halfling team, and frenzy, because it adds a lot of mobility really, because you can move your full mobility on a block action. Also, people often don't expect to be surfed by a tree from 4 squares away, so if you can do that, that's pretty awesome. And stand firm of course already synergizes with it. Rolling stat increases on your tree may seem really amazing, but think about it before you take them. Strength is kinda cool. Strength 7 seems really nice, but is it really better than Strength 6 and block? The agility you're obviously not going to take unless it's a joke team, but movement is awesome, because movement will let you stand up without having to roll dice. Armor you're not even allowed to take, because no stat will go to 11, so pretty straightforward options here. Developing your halflings is kind of an issue, because they only have agility access, so one thing people will typically do is take sidestep first, which is fine. And then after that, the most tempting agility skill would be diving tackle. Now this is nice, it's a good synergy. However, you have to ask yourself, this player, is he really worth more than double a normal fling? Because he's already 70k, whereas normal flings are only 30. And playing higher team value means fewer inducements or better opponent teams, neither of which are really good for you. So one thing that you might consider as a first double skill is dirty player, because having a 60k player that can foul real well is very worthwhile. Ideally, at some point you'll start rolling doubles, and because you pick sidestep first, if your player later becomes good, with block for instance, or even with stat increases, then sidestep is still very useful, whereas diving tackle already wouldn't be. So an agility increase is the best thing that can happen to your halflings. Dodging on a 2+, picking up, and importantly, landing. Because Agility increases are the only way that you can improve your chance to successfully land after being thrown by a treeman. Agility 4 will already make your landing a 3+, and if you're lucky enough to have Agility 5, then your landing will be a 2+, provided you're not in any tackle zones. If you manage to get a player like that, catch is actually fairly worthwhile, since you'll be handing off to him a lot. If you have a halfling that already has blodge and it rolls doubles again, I would go with Sure Hands as the next skill. It saves you on the reroll, it protects you from strip ball, and it's an all-round good skill. A third option might actually be Kickoff Return, because if you want to one-turn touchdown by throwing a teammate, then the restriction is that you're not able to pass, so you need to be able to hand off to the fling that gets thrown. And Kickoff Return might just help with that, and in normal drives as well, because your low mobility is really a key factor to why halflings are so bad. If you're sadly not lucky enough to roll up a super halfling like that, you'll still want to develop a scoring specialist at some point. This player probably needs sure feet and sprint because you might just not throw him far enough. And another good skill for that role is catch, because you'll need to hand off to him before you get to throw him in. And after that, you might actually want to consider sidestep for general utility, or even jump up. Jump up won't actually save your play if he's holding the ball, but it might be good later. Obviously, agility and movement are the two things that will really improve him in his role. As for gameplay, you'll want to make sure that you utilize your trees as much as you can, get that mighty blow going. Try and force your opponent to make mistakes. He's probably going to be low on rerolls because of your chef, and so sometimes it can be worth giving him blocks that he doesn't really want to take, but most of the time you want to avoid getting your halflings punched. Don't be afraid to swarm the ball carrier if you must, and keep an eye open for cool opportunities. For instance, a failed pickup in the backfield might already result in a touchdown simply because you're able to throw a halfling in that direction, which is a lot safer for flings than it is for other stunties, because the treemen are just so much better at throwing. An example of that you can find here. Here you can see how even if you take root, you can still use throw teammate, which is very nice because if you're, for instance, boneheaded, you couldn't. So we can fail take root, we can still throw. And because we have strong arm, it's a 2+ roll to be inaccurate, which is the best you can get. And see, you can hit the opponent player, and even if your guy gets injured, as long as he's not holding the ball, it's not even a turnover. So this can be a very cool way to use your halflings as ammunition. Of course, you're going to run out of them pretty damn soon, but you probably will anyway, because they're halflings. Gameplay is always a lot harder to explain than to show, so if you want more, then have a look at this video, where you can see the halflings in action. If you enjoyed this, please do give it a thumbs up, comments are always very welcome, and be sure to check out the channel and subscribe if you'd like to see more Blood Bowl 2 content. Right.
Yeah.
I should have just gone with all halflings and no treeman.
Clearly.
It's the safest way to play.
Oh, look at these shillings.
Is he going to eat that
You know
rib
what?
cage? He's eating the rib. Oh, there they are.
I'm not gonna look at them.